Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Unstoppable Dad Project. Thanks once again for joining me for another week. Hope you've had a fantastic week. Before I get into today's episode, I would just like to ask you the same two favors I do every single week. Number one, make sure you're subscribed on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. We are all on all the big podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google. And while you're there, jump on and give us a 5-star review. By you doing those things, you help me continue to grow this podcast and hopefully get it out to more people who will get some value out of it firstly, but also maybe get some enjoyment out of listening to me carry on for 15 to 20 minutes every week. Number two thing, please jump on and follow us on the socials. So at The Unstoppable Dad on Instagram, The Unstoppable Dad Project on Facebook. There is also a free Facebook group that you can jump into if you want to get some more information about my programs that I offer, but also some free usable information around training, around mindset, and around hopefully some things that if there is something in your life you want to change, you can access that information at no cost, which for me has been what this podcast and that group has always been all about. Hopefully providing some free information to dads who maybe need it and let you know that you're not alone in this journey. Your experiences and how you feel are going to be unique to you, but a lot of us have been through it before. So if you're at the point where you feel like you need help, reach out and get some help, whether that be professional help because mentally you are really struggling right now, or it's just chatting to a mate, or if you ever want to have a chat to me, you can jump on and you can send me a message on there. If you are interested in working together, I am in the process of launching the premium program. It's something that's been on the back burner for a little while. I've been doing more lower cost programs, which I will still be doing because I understand not everybody has the means to work with me very closely one-on-one for an extended period of time. But I will still have access to those other programs. So if you do want to work with me, if you need some help regaining your confidence, regaining your energy, and regaining your strength, then there is a link in the show notes where you can book in a time, or feel free to reach out and contact me on any of the social media platforms. Now, this week, I wanted to have a conversation about finishing what we start. Because I think a lot of the time, if I look back at my life, right, and the reason this is coming up is because I am going through the process of relaunching the premium program, which again has been something I've put on the back burner for a while, just because I was avoiding it. If I'm being completely honest, it was something that I knew I wanted to do, but I was avoiding the work that needed to go into it in order to do it, because after the last 12 months that I've had, I just needed some mental downtime and some mental space. And only working with a few people very closely was working for me over the last 12 months. And then working with a lot of others, just providing fitness programs and advice. That was kind of the space that I needed to be in for 12 months. But I'm back in that mindset where I know that the best way to help a bunch of dads is going to be a more intensive program to try and get them to the point and get them to a goal that they want to get to. And now I'm back in that headspace and I've been rebuilding it. And there's been a lot of hiccups along the way, whether it's been tech problems, whether it's been mentally me sitting there at night thinking, why the fuck am I putting in all this work when, I'm not even sure if it's going to be, how long it's going to take us to see a result. But I persevere and we keep going with it. And I've always been a person that's been extremely stubborn with anything I set out to do. I will just keep doing it, sometimes at a detriment to other things in my life. And sometimes I don't let go of those things until it's too late or until it's burnt a hole in a whole bunch of other areas. So I'm not the type of person that's ever had a problem continuing through on something. In fact, I sometimes continue through past the point where I really should continue through with it. But a lot of people I deal with there's a thing where we have a problem finishing what we start. And I think a lot of that comes about from we hit a bit of adversity or we hit a bit of roadblock at some point and it gets put in the too hard basket. And then all of a sudden we either revert back to our old habits because that's a comfortable place for us to be. And then we don't finish what we start. Whereas sometimes the goal or the result that we're looking for is really not that far away. Like it's just around the corner on the thing that we've undertaken that we've just given up on. Now, a lot of times people won't succeed. And if I look back retrospectively on my life and some of the things that I've undertaken that I haven't finished, the reason I haven't succeeded is because I haven't finished it. So firstly, I think we do have to understand where that finish line is. And that's going to be individual based off the endeavour that you're undertaking and based off whatever you want to achieve out of whatever it is that you're undertaking. I think you need to understand that, because if you don't understand where that finish line is, we may be just around the corner from that finish line and not even know it because we don't have an inherent understanding of where we want to go. It's like going on a car trip and, not plugging the destination into a map to get, and it's 100 kilometers away. We get 80 kilometers into the car trip and maybe we've taken a couple of wrong turns and we've 80 kilometers or 80% of our way there, and then we get the shits and we turn around and we come home. But we're only 20 kilometers, like most of the work's done. So if you don't understand where that finish line is, it's very easy to potentially get to that point where you're almost there and you give up. But the other thing to tail into that is, what type of a mindset are you starting out this change or this endeavor with? Are we looking for instant gratification when we do this? I.e., if we're starting something where we're looking for, let's say for example, we're trying to reclaim our fitness, right? Or we're trying to build strength on a lift or in the gym, and we want to put 100 kilos on a squat, or we want to be able to run a particular time, a particular amount in X amount of time. If we don't understand what exactly we are trying to do, then we're kind of shooting in the dark, right? If we don't have an end goal that we're trying to achieve, we're shooting in the dark. Now, this fitness probably isn't the best thing for this particular analogy, but I'm going to try and pursue this just because this is something that comes up all the time, because I think your health needs to be an ongoing thing. Like there's actually no finish line with that. So if you start doing something to try and improve your overall health and well-being, the finish line is when we're able to do the things that we want to do. When we're able to run around the oval with our kids, when we're able to do that. But that when you get to that point, that doesn't mean you stop taking that particular action, because you want to keep doing it because that's an activity that you want to keep doing. Maybe the finish line is when we get to our old age and we live to the ripe old age of 100, and because we didn't die when we were 70, because we actually took the time to look after ourselves in our 30s, 40s, and 50s. Maybe that's the finish line. So that's really taking a long mindset, like that delayed gratification. But if we're looking to change something and we're looking to move something and we're looking to get to that finish line, and we stop just before, why do we stop? What are the reasons we stopped? And in my opinion and in my experience, what I've noticed is people trade out delayed gratification, so that end result, for instant gratification. They take the easy route now because it's instantly gratifying to them and to their ego right now. So they stop taking action on the end goal. Now that can be because they don't understand where the end point is. It can also be because they've hit a plateau and they don't know how to adjust. They can't see any point in continuing those same actions because it really feels like they've hit a roadblock, and they just don't have the mental capacity to keep doing it. They just don't have the will and the drive, or it's not that important to them anymore. And some of those things are okay if you choose to acknowledge it, right? Like there may be a change in circumstances in your life and something that you're working towards is just no longer important to you. And that's okay. That's fine. But if we look at overall things and we look at why we don't finish and why we don't get to goals and why maybe we don't succeed on our way, what I've noticed in my life and a lot of other people that I've coached is we get to a point where we plateau. We may even go backwards a little bit. And then maybe we don't have the knowledge on how to adjust and how to move forward to still continue to that goal, which is where we get to a point where maybe it's the thing that you need to do in order to adjust and move towards that particular goal is you need to invest in somebody to take a bird's eye view to help you adjust. Another conversation for another time. But maybe we don't have the tools to adjust and move things in the right direction, number one. Or, number two, we all know what we've got to do. The work is quite hard, and we just don't want to do it. Which leads me back to my story about this, like relaunching this premium program. It's a lot of work because there's a lot of stuff that we've got to do and we've got to cover off in this program. And I just didn't want to do it. And I look now and I go, geez, I wish I had have really dug in and started doing this 12 months ago because we could be in a completely different place to where I am now. So for me, looking back on it in hindsight, I actually traded off that delayed gratification from the work that I had to do in order to build and grow this thing for instant gratification of feeling better in the moment. Now, I will put the and or on the end of that particular that particular thing in saying that I don't think I would have been able to do it as well as what I'm doing now had I have done it then, because mentally there was a lot of things that I needed to unpack and needed to address. So sometimes we get presented with the opportunities when we're ready to attack them and when we're ready to go with them. But there are a lot of instances where in our lives where if we take that short-term mindset, we can sometimes lose out on that bigger picture. And really, after talking around in circles for 12 minutes, that's what I'm trying to get to here. Where in your life are you trading off the delayed gratification or the delayed result for the instant gratification for now? And what's the underlying reason why you're doing that? Is it that you're stuck in this loop and you're stuck in a habit that is really hard to break and I think this is actually a form of self-sabotage, me personally, because when I look at it in my life, that's really what it's been, where it's like I'm almost scared to step into this next area or this next element. And as a result, I trade off delayed gratification for instant gratification and I don't finish what I start. And for some of those things, I've been very close to the finish line. And then trading off that instant gratification. Now, if you do that every now and then, but then you get back to the thing where you're the bigger thing that you're trying to build, I don't actually see a problem with that. Especially if you're self-aware enough to know, oh, I just did this. I took a week off because it was needed. So be it. Let's just get back to the task at hand and get back to what the bigger picture is. But what happens a lot of the time is we trade off that instant gratification in the moment and then we continue to do it. And we continue to do it. And we continue to do it. And then over time, what happens, because we've kept making those micro decisions to get that short-term gratification rather than focusing on what the long goal is, then all of a sudden we're back to where we started. And then it becomes really hard to go back and try and make that change again because we know that we've got to start from square one. And we've made all this progress and then we're back to square one. And this all comes from, in a lot of instances, that unconscious decision to trade off that short-term pleasure for what's going to be a long-term goal. And that's what I think we have to be very careful of in our lives, because then if this becomes a pattern of behavior that's happening over and over again, that's potentially something that our kids will pick up on subconsciously without us knowing. And I think for a lot of us, for me especially, and for some people that I've worked with, that decision to move from delayed gratification to instant gratification, it doesn't happen consciously, it happens subconsciously. And that in our body and in our mind, it doesn't take a lot of effort for that decision to happen. Where it does take a lot of effort is to swing it back the other way. So when we've made that decision to switch, then we want to switch it back to that delayed gratification. So this is where one of the biggest things and one of the biggest quote unquote superpowers that anyone can have is being self-aware. Self-aware of the triggers, what drives them, self-aware of the things that they want to move towards, and self-aware of how they respond in particular situations. Because by being self-aware, we can shortcut that habit when it happens, or that action when it happens, and get ourselves back on task and get ourselves moving back to the end goal and what we want to achieve. And having a strong enough why and a strong enough reason as to why that end goal is important to you is so important to change that willpower in order to do it, to shift that mindset from instant gratification to delayed gratification, so you can continue to have faith that this action that I'm taking is going to result in something much better for me in the long run. So it's for me, this is such an interesting topic. It's something that I observe in my own life all the time, and it's not something that's easily changeable, and it's not something that you do. I don't actually think that it's something that you have to consistently make a conscious decision to change. And it's probably something that you'll always have to consciously make a consistent decision to change for the rest of your life, and in different areas and different aspects of your life. But the big thing is, if you want to finish something and you have to get to the finish line, firstly, you have to have some form of quantifiable way of knowing when I'm getting close to what I want to do, I think. But you also need to understand that it's not going to be a linear progression to get to that point. There are going to be peaks and troughs, and you're going to have to assess, readjust, and you're going to have to make that conscious decision to get back on path in order to get to where you want to go. It's the whole draw a line in the sand and keep moving forward. Forget about what's happened and keep moving forward, and constantly taking that action and moving ourselves forward so that we can succeed, and we succeed by getting to that finish line. Understanding your priorities, understanding what's important to you, understanding why you're taking that action and where you want to go with that action are going to be such important points, so that you don't get caught in this trap of trading off the delayed result for that instant gratification. Let me know if this is something that you've observed come up in your life. As I said, I think it's something that comes up in every single person's life. The ones that tend to succeed and work through it are the ones that can acknowledge that it is happening in their lives and know how to deal with it and what actions to take for them moving forward. If you need help with this, please reach out. Let's book in a call and see if something that I offer is a good fit for you. Or if not, we'll just have a chat and we'll just see if I can maybe just give you some actionable steps to keep you moving forward. So thanks so much for listening again. Please make sure you like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and I will catch you next week. Goodbye.